how we work. This is the new construct of WLE. And as you can see, the centerpiece is the focal regions. And many of you have been involved in the rollout of the focal regions, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the center core is essentially the focal regions where the integrative nature of WLE comes together. And I think you'll see those arrows in the center that effectively connect three key components. What we're trying to do, we're trying to generate evidence with partners, evidence-based knowledge. We're trying to do this in a multi-sector engagement environment. Why? Because the types of things that we're talking about require a multi-sectoral approach. And then thirdly, the bottom line is changing or shifting mindsets. You will not get any changes in the kind of problems we're dealing with without changes in attitudes and mindset. We are very strongly about changing people, how they think, and how governments think about natural resources. As you expand those circles, you've got livelihoods, productivity, sustainability, and efficiency, all of the key elements that make up the program. And then on that outer light blue circle, you've got what we call our core cross-cutting themes: gender poverty in institutions, ecosystem services and resilience, and a new cross-cutting theme is strengthening decision analysis and information. Why? Because this is one of the key CRPs that talks about big data, big information, and how you can use big data and information to make strategic decisions. Feeding into this are essentially 4 other flagships: land, water, and productivity, revitalizing degraded ecosystems, RRR, resource recovery and reuse, and managing resource variability. And these are hubs in which many of you actually already are mapped to. So a lot of your projects are mapped to those 4 outer flagships. So that's where your home is. So this is the new construct of WLE. Where we're working, we have what we call priority focal regions. And those priority focal regions are the Volta Niger, the Nile East Africa Corridor, the Ganges, and the Greater Mekong subregion. We have other focal regions, what we would term second-tier focal regions. And the work that's going on there is just as important. Okay, don't get me wrong. You are not second, you could say, party citizens in this whole construct. The work that's going on in Central Asia, for example, the work going on in the Tigris-Euphrates, Southern Africa, and the Andes are just as important to the program and has clear relevance. And also the Indus. So that's where the bulk of our work is ongoing. And I just wanted to put this diagram in to try and position you as to where WLE or what WLE is trying to influence. Key to our influencing is essentially at a national scale. That's where we have a niche. And that's where a lot of the focus of our work is, at a national scale. We do have projects and activities at a local scale. Okay, some of you have effectively projects that are mapped, that are looking at a farm system level. But again, that's a relatively smaller element of the program. And then even smaller is our global scope. And when we talk about global scope, I can give you an example of that is EME's involvement, for example, in Ramsar and other institutions. So really where your impact, I see, coming to WLE comes from is really at that national level and how you influence national policies. So let's just go through each of the flagships briefly that have been this new construct. So the first one is the focal regions, and really what we've got there is the 4 priority focal regions and the innovation fund. Okay, this is a new flagship, and it's being driven by Nathaniel Matthews. And that's really where we see the integrative nature of the program coming together. Increasing water productivity and land productivity. That has really 2 key areas of research. Agricultural water and land productivity. A lot of the ag water management activities are mapped to that. And then revitalizing irrigation systems. And I think we mustn't underestimate the role of these big, large irrigation systems in the whole food supply equation. And really that has been neglected. And I think this is a great opportunity to now start to think about how do we bring these systems back into a sustainable and within the context of an ecosystem services delivery framework. And Meredith is the co-leader with Teeb. And I'd like to welcome Meredith. She's now just taken over that role from Peter, and thanks Peter for standing in as interim. It's great to have Meredith on board. Revitalizing degraded ecosystems, and again there are now 3 key cluster areas or areas of where we're going to focus. Landscape restoration and their impacts, ecosystem services and assessments, exploring trade-offs and equitable planning, and then finally the economic solutions and incentives. So again, there's been a change in the clustering within this particular flagship that probably reflects a maturity in the way we're thinking. And that's been driven by Deborah and Suhas. Resource recovery and reuse, that's PI's flagship. And it's a single flagship that really is quite unique to the program. And it's unique from a point of view that it's taken quite a different approach to looking at resource and resource recovery, namely business models and how we get these business models to scale up with regard to closing the nutrient loop, water and energy. And then the 5th one, flagship, is managing resource variability. And again, that has undergone some changes. Managing water resource variability and rethinking storage. And we have a very strong relationship with CCAFs in that area, where we jointly work, resource allocation, and the water, food, energy nexus. And again, you've got Claudia and Vladimir who are driving that. Then we have the core themes, and I said there are 3 of them: gender, poverty, and institutions. And again, here is a construct that we need to show that in all the projects that we have mapped to WLE, there is a gender element in it. And again, we're putting this parameter on all of you to actually, I think, explicitly explain how you are in your projects addressing that gender element. And that's been driven by Nicolene, and Nicolene will be talking to you a little later. The Ecosystem Services and Resilience Working Group, which is now a core theme, that's been driven by Fabrice de Klerk, and one of the products that have been produced is that framework. And again, you will have to be very explicit about what your projects and activities are doing to address the framework that has now been put in place. And then the final one is strengthening decision analysis and information systems. That was previously a standalone SRP, but now it's been effectively incorporated as a cross-cutting core theme. And that's been driven by Keith and Lisa. And again, this is talking about big information. How do we use big information in a more, you could say, holistic way in our decision making?